Dan Willis here, and we're talking about how to remove bad credit. Now, it sure is frustrating trying to live in our world with a less than perfect credit score. These dings, these blemishes, these negative marks on our credit reports, this is the cause of a low credit score. This is what pulls our credit score down. And we know this three-digit number touches virtually every aspect of our life, from where we live to the car we drive to our discretionary income, because poor tax is real and it's expensive. Moreover, we also know our credit reports are not accurate. According to a 2012 study by the Federal Trade Commission, our government, FTC, they found roughly 1 in 5 people have errors, total mistakes on their credit report, and that's millions of people. Again, with errors and mistakes on their credit report, that's causing them to have a low credit score. The worst part about having less than perfect credit is the stigma. Society views us as a second-class citizen, as if we're undeserving or somehow unworthy of the daily comforts that everyone else takes for granted. Now listen, OJ didn't have to serve his maximum sentence in real prison, and while it may temporarily feel like you're on the wrong side of the credit laws, you too can get out of bad credit prison early. It's true, 7 years is the maximum amount of time that most items can remain on your credit report, with rare exceptions, such as a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which can stay on your credit report for a maximum of 10 years. But did you know there is no minimum amount of time that a negative item must remain on your credit report? Let us repeat, there is no minimum amount of time that any negative item must remain on your credit report. Every year, people have millions of negative items removed from their credit report, and long before 7 years. And listen, your credit score is a lot like your grade point average in glory school days past. It doesn't matter if you're acing all your classes, if you're failing the art of walking, because that negative mark is going to ruin your overall GPA. This too is true of your credit score and your credit reports. This is why it is essential and imperative and mission critical, in order to get a better credit score, that we take action to remove any dings, blemishes, or negative marks from your credit report. And to do this, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the credit bureau dispute process. If you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Now let's talk about the credit report dispute process. This is your right granted by federal legislation in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, passed by Congress way back in 1970. And what this federal legislation enables us to do is to challenge and dispute any item on our credit report, so long as we believe it's misleading, inaccurate, or made in error. After all, we know our credit reports aren't accurate from that FTC study. We know millions of people have errors on their credit report. Now, the very first step is to grab current updated copies of all 3 of your credit reports with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can do this for free once every 12 months by visiting annualcreditreport.com. That's where you can request your free credit reports, and you're entitled to one every 12 months. You will not be able to request your free credit report directly from that credit bureau. So in other words, to get your free Experian credit report, you will not be able to request that from Experian. You'll have to visit annualcreditreport.com. Once you get your credit reports, our next step is to review them in detail. What we're looking for are the inaccurate items, any misleading items, any errors, any items that we'd potentially like to dispute and ideally like to remove. Our next step is to actually file our credit dispute. And we need to share, there have been amendments made to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA. Now, in 2018, you can bypass the credit bureaus and you can dispute the data furnisher directly. The data furnisher is the company that's reporting that information about your account to the credit bureaus. But traditionally, and for our purposes, we're going to be talking about the dispute directly with the credit bureaus, because the credit bureaus is who actually compiles your credit report and collects that information. Now, there's three ways to file your credit report dispute. You can do it online, over the phone, or by mail. Once the credit bureaus get your dispute, they first get to deem it valid or frivolous. And just to be clear, let's use an example just to clarify. If you have a charge-off on all three of your credit reports with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, you're going to have to file three separate credit report disputes. One with Experian, one with TransUnion, and one with Equifax. In other words, the credit bureaus are separate entities. And often there's different information on each one of your credit reports, so it's best to view each of your credit reports as a separate case, independent case. Once your credit dispute is submitted, you'll be notified if your dispute was found valid or frivolous. Only on valid disputes are the credit bureaus required to investigate under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. You'll be notified. If your dispute's found frivolous, they'll contact you, and when they let you know that it's found frivolous, they're going to request additional information. You should provide and comply with their request and stay persistent with this, and eventually you should have your dispute deemed valid and subsequently investigated and the law followed. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Now let's talk about the reinvestigation, because when the credit bureaus deem your dispute valid, this is when they'll investigate, or what they call a reinvestigation, as if there was an investigation that took place before that item got slapped on your credit report. Nevertheless, during their reinvestigation, they're going to contact the data furnisher, the company that's reporting that information to them, and they're going to ask them to verify that account. Now, if the account is not verified, then in compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, this means the item must be removed from your credit report. This is how to remove bad credit from your credit report legally and by exercising your consumer rights and without just sitting on your hands for 7 long years. If the item is verified, then it will remain on your credit report. Every single one of those marks on your credit report is supposed to be verifiable, and it's supposed to remain verifiable. So if it's verified today, a year from now, it's still supposed to be verifiable. You'll be notified typically in 30 to 45 days of the credit bureau's reinvestigation of their results of what, if it was verified and stayed on your credit report, or if it was not verified and removed from your credit report, the actual results. And depending upon how you filed your dispute is how you'll be notified of your results. So for example, if you mailed your credit bureau dispute in, you'll be notified by mail of the results, and then you'll also be provided with an updated copy of your credit report if changes were made. Now let's get down to the unvarnished truth. We wish it was this easy to remove even the most obvious of errors from your credit report. Unfortunately, it's not, and it's far from it. Even for those millions of people with total blatant errors on their credit report that's causing them to have a low credit score. All 3 credit bureaus have been fined repeatedly by our government for violating consumer rights, and they've been fined for decades for doing that. In 2015, all 3 credit bureaus agreed to settle and pay $6 million to 31 state attorney generals for, again, allegedly violating consumer rights. Not too many years ago, 60 Minutes featured a story sharing just how darn near impossible it is for the average consumer to remove even the most obvious of errors from their credit reports. This is in addition to individuals filing lawsuits against the credit bureaus, and we need to share one just as an example and to illustrate. And it's in 2013 with a woman named Julie Miller. Julie woke up with Equifax, and Julie woke up one day to discover 38 bogus collection accounts were on her Equifax credit report. Naturally, she was shocked. She followed the law and did what she was supposed to and filed her Equifax dispute, exactly what the Fair Credit Reporting Act says she was supposed to do. For the next 2 years, Equifax continued to tell Julie that her dispute was frivolous and they would request additional information. Julie complied. She provided them with W-2s, tax returns, DNA, hair samples, her firstborn child. Yes, that's a small exaggeration. Nevertheless, after 2 years of continuously being told that her dispute was frivolous, To get the most obvious of errors off of her credit report, she finally got fed up and filed a civil lawsuit. She was awarded $18.6 million by a federal jury, which was later reduced by a federal judge to $1.8 million. But here's the kicker. This judge found Julie's compensatory damages, the damages to make her life right again, only $180,000. But this judge awarded Julie $1.62 million in punitive damages, a full 9 times, just for the annoyance of having to deal with Equifax and this reprehensible behavior. And this was pre-data breach on Equifax's behalf. Hopefully your situation is not as dire as Julie's, and if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Again, that's for a free credit consultation, and the toll-free phone number is 1-877-418-7596. This is Dan Willis. We'll include a link in the description below over to an article on our website for the full story. We also have a free report available there, the 7 proven ways to boost your credit score. And of course, subscribe and join our congregation, because coming up next, we're going to be talking about how to deal with debt collectors and to remove bad credit from debt collectors. So of course, subscribe and join our congregation. Have a wonderful day, and looking forward to talking to you again here soon.